Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Hillary Fredrickson coming to you live from Northeastern University. My daughter, I'm going to just give you a little tour. Today's move out day at Northeastern University. And Kara's on the road back home, and you got me. I'm packing up my daughter. You can see that I still have a lot to go, but this is the cute view from the window. She was on the 4th floor, and she got to look out in the treetops. And when we got here in January, there were no leaves, and now the leaves are coming out. It's really cute. So she's off to try to find some boxes. And I am going to talk to you about thyroid hormone. Just please excuse the background. It's like so funny. Okay, wait. Maybe if I turn this way, it's less obnoxious. No, you can't. It's literally like the smallest dorm space, and it's awesome that kids live like this. She had a single, and so it was really fun for her to, I think, live independently. I have 3 children, so she has 2 siblings. So it was her first time that she ever, was independent like that in her own room. So she really liked it. But packing up is hilarious. So today's show is all about thyroid hormone. There's a lot of questions that come up for women and men. For women, all the way starting when they're probably trying to get pregnant in a fertility journey, thyroid hormone is so important. And then for, of course, women as we age, and men, I shouldn't say just women, like men have thyroid issues too. I actually just diagnosed 2 men this week with hypothyroidism. And what I want you to know is that there is like an epidemic of hypothyroidism. And hypothyroidism, the thyroid gland is here, and it is the thing that is, it's the gland it's an endocrine gland, which means it makes hormone. And that hormone, the thyroid hormone, is responsible for our basic metabolism and functioning, right? So it's so important. So babies get screened for thyroid function right at birth, because babies who are missed that don't have hypothyroidism, and some are born without a functioning thyroid, then they will essentially have mental, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get comfortable here. They will essentially be mentally handicapped. It's called cretinism. It's a big deal. I mean, they don't grow. It's their whole body development. What happens is, as people go on, thyroid function is one of those things that, even though it impacts so many systems and you can have so many symptoms, it tends to go often undiagnosed, or potentially doctors are sort of letting patients have a lot of symptoms. And I'm not blaming it on doctors, but there's this range of thyroid hormone. And many people fall right under that range. And so they don't have great functioning thyroid, but it's not enough that they get diagnosed. So a lot of people are walking around with what we call like subclinical hypothyroidism. It's not diagnosed clinically, but they have a lot of symptoms. And this happens all the time on a fertility journey. So if you're listening and you're on a fertility journey, and you've had miscarriages, or you're having a hard time getting pregnant, your TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, should be quite low, like at the level of 2.25 or 2.2. It's changing. Some are moving it even down or lower. And so if you've had frequent, and hopefully your providers are helping with you with this. For many women or men, they undergo a stressful event. Like for me, my thyroid stopped working effectively after my 3rd baby. My mother has hypothyroidism, her mother above her. So it can run through family lines, or we're just seeing it more and more where kids are having issues, adults are having issues, and we really feel like it's environmental. And some of the environmental toxins or toxicants that are very toxic to the thyroid gland. So this is how the thyroid works. It's kind of this really cool cascade. There's my cute daughter. I'm just going to flash. Hi. So the way that the thyroid works is, the brain essentially is filtering the blood and scanning for the level of what we T4 and T3 are thyroid hormones. It's a lot like the heating air conditioning unit, right? So like if you set your thermostat for 75 degrees and it drops down below that, the sensor kicks on the heater, and the heater goes on until it gets to be 75 degrees, and then it goes off. So it's a lot like the brain is kind of always scanning levels, which is just so incredible. The hypothalamus and the pituitary work together. Like the hypothalamus communicates to the pituitary, which communicates to the thyroid, whether we need to stimulate more thyroid hormone production or slow down thyroid hormone production. So it's a feedback loop. And the brain is always working for you. Your brain is always working for you to help keep you regulated with a lot of different hormone systems. The screening exam for thyroid is called the TSH, the thyroid stimulating hormone, where the brain is telling the thyroid to either up it or down it. And so as the thyroid stimulating hormone goes up, that's a sign that the thyroid function is not functioning as well. So when you have what is called hypothyroidism, which is like under functioning thyroid, your TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, will go up, right? And if you have an over-functioning thyroid, which can happen with Graves' disease or a thyroid storm, many autoimmune diseases can start out with thyroid funkiness, then your TSH will be very, very low. And that means you're hyperthyroid. Most often, thyroid dysfunction looks like hypothyroidism. And hypothyroidism has a lot of symptoms. So many of them are, and you're going to hear yourself in these very likely, are fatigue, weight gain, cold hands and feet. Cold hands and feet are like a hallmark. Sluggish digestion, so constipation. Just this feeling of like, I can't quite get enough energy, hair dryness, hair loss, skin dryness, anxiety, depression, insomnia. So it's like a lot of symptoms. So really, doctors should be screening your thyroid at every annual exam. And certainly if you show up to the doctor and you're like, this is happening for me, they should be screening for your thyroid. Now, many people only screen that TSH. And if the TSH, the range currently is 0.5 to 4.5. So if an individual shows up at like 4.0, typically doctors are like, oh, well, it's normal, right? But somebody at 4.0 can feel pretty bad. And they can have certainly fertility issues. And if you're my age or just entering into perimenopause, most certainly a lot of symptoms. So we need to have some awareness about the thyroid. What are some of the things that really impact thyroid? So the thyroid eats iodine. The thyroid needs a lot of iodine. The thyroid needs a lot of minerals in order to function properly. One is that to make enough thyroid hormone. And then what happens is our thyroid makes mostly T4 and it circulates in the blood. And as it goes into the cell, the T4 is converted to T3. And what you need for that to happen is zinc and iodine and selenium and good amounts of fish oil and vitamin D. And we just did a show Monday from another really funny location. That was the hotel location. And the vitamin D deficiencies are so common. So if you have a higher TSH and a vitamin D deficiency, it's really important to treat the vitamin D deficiency. Iodine, selenium are not things that are normally screened, but your doctor should be screening you for your TSH, vitamin D. I screen with a T4 and a T3, especially if anyone has any of the symptoms. And then I'm screening for what's called Hashimoto's, which is a very common autoimmune disease that attacks the thyroid. And people can have Hashimoto's that are antibodies. So it's called the anti-TPO antibody or the TTG antibody. Those can be elevated, and the thyroid can look totally normal. But what we're getting is red alert, the thyroid's under attack. So the patient has symptoms, the gland hasn't stopped functioning yet, the labs look normal, but yet there is thyroid dysfunction and autoimmune dysfunction. So most people don't use those as screening exams, but like, again, if you've had multiple miscarriages, or if you're just so bloody tired and your feet are freezing and you're constipated and you can't lose weight, you might have Hashimoto's. So it's worth asking your doctor, like, can you just screen me for Hashimoto's, and just make sure, or, if Hashimoto's is in your family, people who are more prone to Hashimoto's, like Hashimoto's and celiac kind of go hand in hand. So anybody that's got major gluten sensitivity, it's definitely worth checking your Hashimoto's antibodies. And so what we're really trying to do with thyroid function is get it going at the best. It's like I don't know anything about cars. My romantic partner is a big car guy, and he knows a lot about cars, and he would kind of be so sad that I know nothing about this. But it's like the main engine. I don't know what the heck, but it's like, if this is off, this is what is responsible for our metabolism, for our brain. Oh, did I mention? I said anxiety, depression, insomnia, but brain fog, memory issues, executive functioning issues. Those are all things that can be off when the thyroid is off. And so I am going to just say there is a movement out there in natural medicine, in functional medicine, and with functional nutritionists and everybody that's like, treat the gut. If your thyroid's off, if you have Hashimoto's, treat the gut. Okay, that is not untrue. I mean, that is true that often our thyroid issues could come from gut-mediated issues or environmental-mediated issues, or just freaking stress. Okay, stress is enough. But just treating the gut is often not enough. Many people need thyroid hormone supplementation. And I kind of like, I had a patient who I diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and she kind of went online and found Hashimoto's treatment, and that's all fine and good, and it's awesome, and I'm sure what she learned was amazing. And yet she didn't get on thyroid hormone. And she circled back 18 months later and was like, oh my God, I've been doing all this work. I've done this. I've cleared this parasite. I've done this. I've done that. And I'm still like exhausted. My hair is falling out. And I'm like, okay, it's so good you all did all that. And you actually need thyroid hormone replacement therapy. Many people will end up needing thyroid hormone replacement therapy because we are in an epidemic of hypothyroidism. And it might not, and I'm not saying anybody that's just above the level, like, shouldn't do work on themselves before treating, but like, you need to be working really closely with your doctor, because to walk around on the planet with hypothyroidism, it just feels really bad. The other thing I didn't talk about was swollen joints, joint pain, pain in knees, pain in hands, really common. So you can hear that the symptom picture's not that fun. Right. So what we do, it's like, if I'm working up a patient and I'm like, I know that this patient's hypothyroid, I can just shoot that, like, every single symptom. Say their TSH is of 3.5. So they're not quite hypothyroid. They don't have autoantibodies. So then what I do, I look at all the nutrients. I'm looking at the diet. I'm looking at their life. I'm trying to clean up their life. Do they have enough protein? Are they eating enough? What kind of stress are they under? How can I support the stress hormones so that their thyroid works better? What's happening with them hormonally? Can we bring the body into balance? And then will the thyroid correct? Many times, yes. Many times, no. So it's very dependent on the patient and their ability to kind of really heal. But what I know is I'm not going to let that patient get so hypothyroid that they fall off the cliff and they're chronically depressed, and then they're 4.5. I'm really going to work with them. So I've got them on vitamin D. I've got them on zinc. They're taking iodine. Their selenium's up. I'm making sure their levels of those things are good, that they're eating enough protein. Sometimes in natural products, there's some good herbs. I am very conscientious of a lot of this movement of herbs being everywhere and available in a lot of different products. Like ashwagandha is one of those herbs. Ashwagandha has a thyroid impact. So like for me, ashwagandha is not a good plant. I have PCOS and I have hypothyroidism. PCOS, hypothyroidism often go hand in hand. Ashwagandha drives more testosterone for me, and it impacts my thyroid in a negative way. So these adaptogens, you have to be really careful and conscientious if you don't know what's going on underneath. So I really kind of like put the plug out there. Like if you're taking herbs in a lot of ways, like make sure you speak with an herbalist or a naturopathic doctor, or somebody that knows and understands pathology and the herbal medicines that you're using. So, and then there's just, hi, oh, there's a question. Is hypothyroidism associated with a lower appetite? It could go either way. Some people can lose their appetite. Some people can get ravenous because they're like, their body's saying something is wrong and we need more. We need more nutrients. We need more protein, eat more. So many people, there is a weight gain, and many people, they have been eating more because they are just trying to get more energy, right? And when you're trying to get more energy, what do you usually eat? Like it's usually don't eat vegetables. Like human beings typically eat more sugar-rich foods or caffeine foods. So there have been, not only are you more sluggish, but because you're more sluggish, you're probably craving more sugar-related foods. And then it's just this negative cycle. But for sure, some people can present with lack of appetite, lack of sex drive. Sex drive is a huge other thing. And then obviously fertility issues, because if your thyroid's off, that's not the body that's, that a baby's going to want to come to. So if you're having a hard time staying pregnant or getting pregnant at all, you will really want to work with somebody that's looking carefully at this. And then many people end up on thyroid supplementation. So I ended up taking, or I should say, thyroid hormone replacement therapy. Thyroid is the kind of gland that once you start taking thyroid hormone, what happens is your blood level goes up of thyroid hormone. So your brain is no longer going to keep having you make it. So it is one of those things that you're signing on for long-term, if not lifelong therapy. And that's a big conversation, obviously, to have with patients. So it is not like, oh, everyone should be on it. I'm not at all advocating you should be on thyroid hormone for weight loss or thyroid hormone for depression. No, you need to be on thyroid hormone though, if you need to be on thyroid hormone, right? So, and there's a lot of different ways to give thyroid hormone. And it's one of those things that's very patient sensitive. Usually we start with something called levothyroxine, which is just straight up T4. Naturopathic doctors use some different, sometimes some different blends. Sometimes you use T3, rarely. That's a much harder medication to be careful with. So like most endocrinologists that manage hypothyroidism or naturopathic doctors tend to start typically with something that's in the T4, and obviously that can vary. And you're trying to find the just right dose, which can take a little while. But for me, I had my third baby, which was a major stress. I was working as a doctor, and my husband at the time was traveling a lot, and I was pretty blown out and tired. And so what happened was I started to feel achy, like I felt like I had run 6 miles or something, and I couldn't get out of bed. My hair was falling out, but I could justify everything. I was like, well, my hair's falling out because I just had the baby, right? Like I'm exhausted because I just had the baby. I'm breastfeeding, so I'm exhausted. So I just had the baby. It often takes people a while of feeling bad to get to the doctor, right? Like a lot of times it's like it takes somebody saying something to you or something like super tragic where you're just like, oh my God, I really screwed this up, or I really feel bad. And then you're like, okay, maybe now I'll go to the doctor. So I just am here to say, listen to your body. If your body's not doing great, you don't have to wait 3 months to see if it'll just get better. You can go get labs. Because as soon as I took thyroid medicine, and I was a candidate because of my family history, and my TSH was a 4.5, and I was breastfeeding, I needed milk. So I went pretty much right on thyroid hormone and did a lot of the supportive stuff. I do not have Hashimoto's, which I'm grateful for because that adds a layer of complexity. But it changed my life. I was like a flower, plant, a really sad plant that got watered, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm alive. Like, I'm alive, I live. And so I just, this is a thing in our society. What's happening right now, it is an epidemic. So go get it treated. And it's not for everybody. Like, there are some patients where I think this person's definitely going to have thyroid hypothyroidism, and boom, it's perfect. Right? So it doesn't mean it's the only problem. There's a lot of complex issues happening with patients, but thyroid is one of the ones that you want to make sure you're really on top of. So make sure you're getting it screened annually, and maybe adding in some of those extra tests, a T4, a vitamin D, and just making sure that you're on a good mineral with iodine, selenium, vitamin D, zinc. Zinc deficiencies are quite common. Make sure that you're really eating enough protein so that you're getting good building blocks for you to make your hormones. And let's keep you really hormonally balanced, because happy, healthy hormones, like if you have a doctor that's treating hair loss, fatigue, obesity, or joint pain, think about how many drugs you can end up being on, versus if there's one hormone that harmonizes all those symptoms and you feel like you're a plant that's getting watered. Like, that's always the treatment, right? So talk to your doctor, work with your doctor, and you can always reach us at hello@cultivatefertility.com if you need support finding somebody to get your endocrine system and your thyroid under good control. All right, you guys, I'm back to the packing. Happy Friday, and enjoy. I think today's our last April show. I can't believe it. April came like this, and we'll be on soon in May with a lot of fun stuff. See you soon.